Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another Persona 5 the Phantom X guide video. So in today's video, I'll be going over the weapon banner and just weapons in general in this game, because there's a lot of things that this game does that other gacha games don't necessarily do in terms of pulling on the weapon banners, as well as just upgrading weapons in general. And I believe this game actually does weapons pretty well, so that's what I'll be going through today in this guide. Before this video begins, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Definitely helps out the channel a lot. We are pushing towards 10,000 subscribers, and it will be absolutely amazing if we can get there. Thank you for all the support recently on the videos, the live streams, and also don't forget to join the Gacha Rebels Discord, link in the description. Alright, so weapons in this game work a little bit differently than other gacha games. I mean, they still give like raw stats and additional abilities, but you can actually use weapons in a more versatile way and not really worry too much about leveling up the quote-unquote wrong weapons, or using weapons as placeholders is a lot easier. So first and foremost, not everyone actually needs their signature weapon. Most signature weapons in this game are just a massive buff, or like a massive sort of stat increase, and sometimes do a little bit of additional, and sometimes can even complement each Phantom X kick. Now in this game, as you can see with Joker, I actually lost my 50-50 on Joker, but you can actually use their 4-star weapon. So each character has a signature 5-star weapon and a signature 4-star weapon. So in this case, as you can see with Rin, I've got the signature 5-star weapon, and then in this case with Joker, I've got the signature 4-star weapon. And that is exactly why I am currently in a wire shop, because you can actually purchase these from a wire shop using these gecko coins, which you can just get throughout sort of just playing the game, Sea of Souls Trials, Exchange Shop. You can even get a lot from the P5 event currently, and each one of these is their signature 4-star for each character, and these are a significant upgrade from their, I guess, like the 4-star, like the purple 4 stars, and obviously the blue 3 stars, and they do like additional abilities and stuff like that. But you can also, using these salamander coins, which you can obtain from the Phantom Pass. I think you get 1 per Phantom Pass. It's not that much, but you can also get these as rewards from events and stuff like that, if they do appear. And you can use these once you get 10 to actually purchase these signature 5 stars for the standard characters, as well as the 4 stars as well. So that's obviously very handy. So you can obviously purchase the 4 and 5 stars for their signature counterparts, in terms of without actually ever having to really roll into the gacha system at all. Now, the other thing that this game does a little bit differently is that weapon levels actually carry over. So what I mean by that is, you can see here this little text here, and some people might miss it. Swap weapons, keep the previous weapons level. So basically, you can level up any sort of weapon you want. You can level up a 3-star, you can level up a weaker weapon, as a placeholder, and then when you get the stronger weapon, like a signature 4-star, signature 5-star, you can then actually just swap over to it, and these levels actually do carry over. And this is per character as well, and per weapon type, so which means that basically you don't have to really worry about investment too much, like investing or leveling up weaker weapons just because you think like, you know, you're going to have to eventually level up a stronger weapon, for example. It's like, no, you can just level up a weaker weapon, make sure you get the stats from the level up, and then just swap over when you get the better weapon, and then the weapon levels carry over, which is great. Less investment, and means just more time to, I guess, play the game without grinding too much, for weapons at least. Alright, so now I'm just going to quickly talk over the weapon banner in this game. So the weapon banner in this game works like, I guess, any other weapon banner. It's a 50-50 system with 70 hard pity. So it's a bit different to the 80 hard pity on the limited banners. Now with this pity system, you actually have a selection of what you lose your 50-50 to, which is really good. So you don't lose it to a, you know, standard 5-star or just some weaker 5-star that you don't really necessarily want. You actually just lose it to whatever you sort of select. So you can do this edit selection here, and then you can, the limited rate up weapon will always be, you know, what it is, but you can choose 2 other different weapons here from all the standard 5-star weapons, signature 5 stars for your 4 stars, as well as the P5 characters. Now, before I get into sort of recommendations of what you should lose pity to, or what you should be selecting in terms of your selectors, first and foremost, I just want everyone to know that you should just pull for the weapons that you really want, for the characters that you really want. First and foremost, this is a video game, so the most important thing is for you to have fun, because if you're not having fun, then you're not going to be playing the game anyway, and then if it's not fun for you, then why would you play something that's not fun for you? Just have fun first, you know, pull for your characters, pull for, you know, the weapons that you want. Don't, you know, necessarily have to listen to me, for example. These are just my pure recommendations. If you really like Moko, for example, then go for Moko. If you really like Riddle, for example, go for Riddle's weapon. Just do what you want and have fun. But if you are looking into, I guess, my sort of recommendations for weapons, then I highly recommend these a few ones. So for example, the first one that I highly recommend is Leon. And the reason for that is because Leon is basically a universal buffer, super versatile, basically used in the other regions in most endgame content. He's just a really good unit in general. And it overall increases his attack by 30%, which is a lot, considering that most of his abilities scale off attack. After using a skill and ally, target one of the following buffs. So you can actually grant additional buffs with the 5-star, so increases attack by 16%, increases crit by 16%, and then if the target has more to power friendship stacks 2 or more, you grant both buffs and increase shield effects from a Leo by 10% more for 1 turn, which is actually super good. So you basically get like 26, so it's like, you know, a huge attack boost, and this weapon is really good, especially just to, I guess, lose a 50-50 5-star. Next weapon is, as you can see, I've already selected it, but I already have it, so I'll probably select something else. It's basically Rin's weapon. So Rin is really good, basically increases speed right off the bat with Sign of Samsara. After attacking a foe with a skill and inflict Waters of Oblivion, which you know take increased damage based on speed. Waters of Oblivion foes damage taken by 1.2% for every 10 of Yaoling's speed for 1 turn, increases Rin's speed by 15 for 2 turns. After spending Mumpan Soup to use on a skill, inflict this effect on all foes. Basically what this means is you get a shit ton of speed, and then speed may or may not be a little bit difficult to build in terms of like substats, main stats, that sort of stuff. So getting the increase in speed from this weapon is super good, super helpful, especially because most of Rin's kit, it just scales off speed in general. And as you can see, more speed basically means more damage for Rin, and it just helps her sort of scale better, as well as sort of be a little bit more, I guess, consistent with her skill rotations as well, especially in the Curse team with Joker. So another weapon that is really good in my opinion, and another unit that you should be building regardless in my opinion, is basically Permafrost or Shun's weapon, Soy. So basically this gives him an increased max HP by 30%, which is huge. And when activating his Desperado passive, healing effect 52% chance to grant the same effect to an ally. So basically every time you sort of proc Desperado, when you're in the sort of taunt state, you can actually heal for 52% of Shun, and granting the same effect, on an ally actually. So you can actually heal 2 people. So he essentially becomes a tank sort of sustain-ish unit, which is just super useful, and just makes him overall utility just so much better as well. And then when taking an attack, decrease the attacker's defense by 30%, which is really good because in his taunt state, he will be basically taking all the attacks. So you can decrease def down for 30%, include that with def down from your own personas, from other units as well. And then it stacks, and then you'll just have a really good time using Shun because he's basically a tank, but also a sustain as well as a debuffer at the same time. This weapon's super good, and I'm probably actually going to be, hopefully losing the 50-50 on whatever weapon banner to Shun's. The next thing is that you should be doing in general is just ranking up and leveling up your navis. So your navi characters as well, for example, can get their 5 stars and it'd be really useful. Now you might be thinking that navis are off-field characters and may or may not be as useful as sort of, other characters that remain on field. But the thing with navis is that navis obviously do damage as percentage based and multiplier based on their own stats. So if you have more stats on your navis, you basically get more buffs from your navis. So if you don't rank up your navis, then increase attack power by 30%. If your attack is only like, 100, you only get 30, but if your attack's like 200, then you get 60. So you can see what I mean by like leveling up your navis to get more stats, because these are all multiplier based on your navi stats. So in saying that, there's only 2 navis in the game at the moment, Okian as well as Puppet. And Okian increases attack by 30%, which is a big increase. After granting users pulsating rhythm, increases party attack, defense, and status elements from any one of her abilities. 41% chance to gain 1 beat stack. And an increased bust from pulsating rhythm by 26% more, which is really good. It makes Okian just a better sort of offensive Navi, and really does propel her into a solid sort of Navi buffing role on your team. And then if we quickly go into Puppets. So Puppet's basically the same, but more defensive. Increase defense by 45% after using a skill. Grant 1 CCL stack to the main target. So increases ally shielding. For every stack you you increase attack by 3% and defense by 3%, which actually makes Puppet into a more versatile Navi actually, which gives a buffs as well as defensive buffs as well. So overall, really, really good weapons for both of them, and you should always be leveling up your Navis regardless. So another DPS unit that people might be building actually, which I have built as well, especially for that one boss in the second palace, is actually Fleuret. Now Fleuret's weapon overall, I mean, you can just read it right here. It basically just gives them a shit ton more damage. It makes them sort of a bit more consistent as well, especially with these right to strike attacks. Right to strike stacks. But yeah, you increase crit rate and crit damage. Overall, really, really good. It can be definitely used in sort of a single target main DPS role for sure. And it'll just make your Fleuret just overall stronger as well. Key's weapon as well is really good, super versatile into sort of like the fire teams that you'll be building with sort of Arn. Increase max HP by 30% when inflicting burn on the foe, increase target's damage taken by 18%, which is already like super good. For each chosen one stack, increase Kurotani's damage by 6%. So overall, like not sort of necessary. Again, none of these 5 stars are necessarily like must-haves, but these are definite upgrades on the 4-star equivalents as well. And Key's weapon is actually pretty decent. Same with Fleuret, same with any of the weapons that I sort of mentioned before. Now I will give a shout out to the 3 here, basically, Ryuji, Morgana, and Arn. So Ryuji's weapon again just gives him a shit ton of damage. He basically becomes like a super high single target burst DPS essentially. And yeah, it just gives them a shit ton more damage. 36.3% is nothing to scoff at for sure, and that's crit damage as well. Arn's weapon is really, really good, so you increase basic fire damage by 25%. And when you're in the VM Rose state, inflicting burn on the random foe, which essentially just means like if you use single target skills or basically just any skills in general, you have more chance of inflicting burn on all the foes, which increases her damage output. And with Key as well in the team, just more fire damage output basically. And then Morgana's weapon is pretty decent as well, increases crit rate. And then if you critically hit with a skill, which is essentially what you're looking for your healing abilities, deal 10% of max HP as bonus damage, which also applies to the additional proc that you get. I guess you can see that Morgana actually crits with his heals, so definitely keep that in mind. And we're using healing skill, restore 9% of target's max HP, which is really good. And then even if a skill misses, immediately gain chivalry, which is super nice on your lucky punch, because obviously I've been missing some of those and Morgana hasn't been doing me a lot of favors, but it's really good to get more chivalry stacks. More chivalry stacks means more chance for him to proc the additional heal. Now these weapons I wouldn't necessarily be selecting as a lose 50-50 type of situation, just because you get one free from the Lufel's Plan 2 as a weapon selector. In my personal opinion, I would be choosing Arn's weapon. I think it's just better overall than Ryuji's or Morgana's. However, if you don't want to choose Arn, Ryuji's is the second best. And then if you really, really need heals and sustain, then Morgana's is good. But Morgana already does a lot of healing and sustain. This weapon just makes it increase more and basically just turns it up to 11 essentially. But these ones I wouldn't necessarily recommend because you do get a selector. But for example, if you're going for Arn and you really want Ryuji's, then you can also choose Ryuji's as well. Do what you want, guys. It's really up to you. Now we'll give a shout out to one person, so Yuki over here. So I will give a shout out to Yukimi's weapon because Fox is the next Phantom Thief limited character coming out in 1.3, I believe. So in about 4 weeks-ish time. And essentially Fox is an actual, it's actually very niche because Fox is a DPS unit that scales off defense. And then Yuki is actually one of his best in-slot teammates because Yuki is actually give defense boosts and also scales with defense. So basically you increase defense by 45%, and then when you spend these gavel stacks, which you deal bless damage to increase party's attack and also grant shields, you can add 1 to the stacks, also steal 30% of target's defense for 2 turns, and then you can, based on Yuki's own defense, so more defense basically means, you can steal more, and then when you have more defense, it means you can do more defensive buffs, which means that Yusuke's or Fox's DPS and damage will go up. So if you are thinking about pulling for Yusuke, then I highly, highly do recommend that you get Yuki's weapon, because overall, consistency-wise and damage-wise, more defense means more damage for Fox Yusuke. So that's pretty much it for the weapon banner and what sort of weapons that I recommend that you, I guess, guys, sort of lose your 50-52. So always will have the limited banner, but if you lose 50-50, then you will lose to a selector, which is quite nice. And I went over quickly just what weapons that I highly recommend. Don't forget, you can also visit Iwaya's shop. If you haven't unlocked Iwaya's shop yet, it is part of the main story, so you should just be able to unlock it if you just go through the story. You can trade for 4 stars. You can also trade for 5 stars, but these coins, salamander coins, are a little bit hard to come by, so it's a little bit more rare. But these coins, however, the gecko coins, are a little bit easier to come by. You get them from a lot of like Sea of Souls trials, for example, the endgame content, and you can get these as well. And then don't worry about, leveling them up, because if you level them up, the weapon levels carry over. So level them up as a placeholder, and then boom, switch on to the better weapon, and then you'll be good to go. So thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully you enjoyed this guide. If you want to see more guides, definitely don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I do a lot of Persona 5 the Phantom X content on this channel. Appreciate all the support. I'll catch you guys in the next video.